Hey, what's going on, guys? One of the most prolific managers in MMA is Ali Abdelaziz of Dominance MMA, and I believe that he has grossly mismanaged the careers of multiple high-profile UFC fighters, Islam Makhachev, Justin Gaethje, just to name a few. We're going to go through far more examples than just those two. But on top of that, Dominance MMA as an entity, which is owned by Ali Abdelaziz, has multiple shady relationships with MMA media members. And a year and a half, 2 years ago, he was actually caught on a recorded phone call talking about how he owns MMA media and even singled out a certain media member that he owns. And that article, which has the audio, did not get enough exposure back when it was released. We're going to look at that in this video as well. But let's start off with Ali Abdelaziz and the countless clients that he's really done dirty. And we don't know all the background details, but at the end of the day, when your client has a poor trajectory in his career, multiple missed opportunities or bad decision making, at the end of the day, in my opinion, even though we don't know every little minute detail, I'm going to give you plenty of examples. Even if you want to give him a pass for one or two of them, there's no way you can give him a pass for every single one of these examples. I believe the buck stops with the manager. So let's go through the long list of examples that I have of Ali Abdelaziz mismanaging high-profile clients. But towards the end of this list is really when we're going to start to focus on Islam Makhachev, Justin Gaethje, and a couple other high-profile UFC fighters that I believe Ali Abdelaziz has done dirty, and I'm going to explain why I believe that he's done those fighters dirty. So let's start off with Henry Cejudo. And we're going to blow through these kind of fast. Henry Cejudo retired in 2020 because he was not happy with his contract. The UFC then said, okay, good riddance. Ali Abdelaziz, who's so buddy-buddy with Hunter Campbell and Dana White and the UFC, was unable to get Henry Cejudo a new contract. And then eventually Cejudo just returned because he realized, oh, now I've sat out for 3 years making no money. So first off, that could just be Henry Cejudo's decision. I can't put all that on Ali Abdelaziz. But talk about career mismanagement. I don't know if Ali's giving him advice or Henry's just, stuck with the decision that he made. But again, I'm going to give you a countless list of examples of where Ali Abdelaziz's fighters have been screwed over one way or another. That could just be Henry's decision. But let's move on to the next example. I just wanted to throw that in there because I truly believe that Henry Cejudo ruined his career by retiring in 2020 and sitting out for 3 years in hopes that the UFC would give him a new contract. Next example, Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush was on an 8-fight winning streak and he never got a lightweight title shot. Never got a lightweight title shot. I mean, listen to this. Just listen to these last few fighters. And this, I understand now, 3 years removed, it doesn't sound that good, but knocked out Drakkar Klose, knocked out Scott Holtzman. Again, not the greatest wins there. Beat Carlos Diego Ferreira, beat Tony Ferguson, which was a quality win at the time, beat Mateusz Gamrot. He had earned a title shot. He never got his title shot. Ali Abdelaziz is supposed to be buddy-buddy with the UFC. Everyone knew that Beneil Dariush had earned his title shot. He eventually gets to fight Charles Oliveira, and he gets slept badly in the first round. Never gets his title shot. Next example, Umar Nagamedov. Umar Nagamedov goes from fighting Corey Sandhagen, who was ranked in the top 15, to then he ends up fighting an unranked UFC debutant in Bekzak Almahan. I mean, what is the reasoning behind that other than poor management? Other than poor management, why are you going from fighting a top 5 ranked opponent to fighting a UFC debutant unranked fighter? It falls with the management. It falls with the management. That is the only explanation for that. Next example, and this is one of Ali's, consistent blunders, is when he opens his mouth. Kayla Harrison is one of his clients. He recently came out and said, Kayla Harrison is Ronda Rousey on steroids. Which I understand the example he's trying to make. I understand the saying. Nobody comment down below and say, Joe, you don't understand the saying. It's not about that. It's not about that. Kayla Harrison is so jacked. For years, there's been speculation that she's on steroids. And Ali Abdelaziz comes out and says, oh, she's Ronda Rousey on steroids. Absolutely horrible PR for Kayla Harrison. Next example. And this one actually really grinded my gears. He leaked the contract, okay? He leaked the contract of Vicente Luque versus Sean Brady because you had media members reporting that the fight was not official. And Ali posted the contract of Vicente Luque's end with his tax ID number. I don't know exactly what people can do with that, but I know one thing you can do. You can look up somebody's address via that. I easily found Vicente Luque's address because of what Ali Abdelaziz is posting online of his clients. And it made no sense because he was calling out Guilherme Cruz for reporting the fight wasn't official, but Ali only represents one of the parties. So Luque may have signed, but Brady may have not signed, which it appears it was Brady. So he's crying about, oh, Guilherme Cruz reported this, and it was around the time, and it all was wrapped into Benoit Saint-Denis versus Dustin Poirier, where Guilherme Cruz reported that it was not official, that BSD did not know about the specific fight, what was told to him by his manager. But apparently Ali Abdelaziz and also Dana White have no media literacy because he was just reporting what he was told by the manager, which he posted a video of the manager saying such things. So Dana and Ali, who go hand in hand, they're butt buddies, they're playing touch butt in the park, had to go out of their way to try to discredit Guilherme Cruz, which Ali Abdelaziz and his shady relationship with MMA media, again, on display again. Next example. And this one is where we really start to get into the really serious, gross career mismanagement of high-profile fighters. Islam Makhachev not staying active. Islam Makhachev said he wanted to fight 3 times last year. He said he wanted to fight 3 times this year. He said he wanted a fight in March before Ramadan. Somehow, Ali Abdelaziz is unable to get him a fight. Unable to get him a fight. You know why? Because instead, he was putting Justin Gaethje in a BMF title fight against Max Holloway. And you know why I believe that was? Because I believe the UFC wanted that BMF title fight on UFC 300 more than they wanted Makhachev versus Gaethje for sometime in March. And Ali Abdelaziz, the way he manages these fighters, and we've seen it time and time again, but we can't see behind the scenes. We can't hear these private phone calls and these private emails. But Ali uses his roster of fighters almost like just pawns with the UFC. Ali Abdelaziz historically seems to be working in the best interest of the UFC rather than his fighters. And the reason he stays on top is because the UFC helps him by, they trade favors essentially. And Ali stays on top. The UFC essentially owns Ali Abdelaziz in a way. And so the UFC wanted Gaethje versus Holloway. And so instead of having Islam Makhachev versus Justin Gaethje, which Ali typically loves, he loves to double dip and have his fighters fight each other so he can take, 2 cuts of 2 purses. Instead, he says, you know what? Islam can sit on the sidelines and we'll make Holloway versus Gaethje since that's what the UFC wants, which in a way, that's career mismanagement for both Islam Makhachev and Justin Gaethje. I think horrible career mismanagement because now Islam didn't get to fight in March. And now instead he sits out till June to fight Dustin Poirier, who's on a 1-fight winning streak. So Islam Makhachev and that whole, like Khabib Nurmagomedov clan, obviously they want to make money, but one of the things they always talk about is legacy. So now your legacy, and again, it's not done yet, it's not written in stone yet, is a guy who beat Dustin Poirier, who is on a 1-fight winning streak. It doesn't mean as much for your legacy. Instead of fighting a guy like Justin Gaethje, who was on a somewhat win streak, I believe he's on a 2-fight win streak, and was considered the much more dangerous contender. And for Justin Gaethje, talk about a massive blunder. Took the fight at UFC 300 under the advice of Ali Abdelaziz and gets brutally KO'd by Max Holloway, gets his nose broken, may have his career ended, got flatlined in the 5th round. We all know the story. Justin Gaethje's career and opportunities in the future got absolutely tarnished by the fact that Ali Abdelaziz had him take the Max Holloway fight instead. And it's not like he's making more money to fight Max Holloway than he is Islam Makhachev. No, that was the advice given to him by Ali Abdelaziz, which I believe is horrible career mismanagement, to fight Max Holloway to gain absolutely nothing rather than fight for a title. Islam would have stayed active and Justin Gaethje would have got the opportunity to capture the undisputed title. And now he's in no man's land, coming off a brutal KO loss against Max Holloway. He needs to take like 9 months off at least. Broken nose, brutally chinned, mid-30s, at lightweight, recipe for disaster. But that's not it. That's not the only two high-profile fighters that he's been mismanaging. He's supposed to be buddy-buddies with the UFC. He's supposed to get his clients what they want. What about Belal Muhammad? 10-fight unbeaten streak. Has been waiting on his title shot for eternity. Mid-30s. He's about to lose his dreams, his hopes and dreams, something he's aspired to be for many years, something he's worked his entire life for, and now he's been sitting out for almost a year. In May, it'll be a year, so we're a couple weeks away from a year when he's on the longest win streak in the division because Ali Abdelaziz can't work something out. Instead, at UFC 300, they're offering Leon Edwards, Ali Abdelaziz's client, Islam Makhachev, a title shot there. They're offering him a welterweight title shot there. That's what they're doing instead. And if that would have happened, that would have been even crazier talk about a massive conflict of interest for Ali Abdelaziz. But it is gross. It is disgusting. And it is disturbing that Belal has not got his title shot, especially considering the fact, okay, by the time he gets it, what's he going to be, 36? What is he going to be on the decline? Coming to the end of his career? I know that's speculation, pure speculation, but still, 10-fight unbeaten streak, you can't get the guy a title shot. How many title shots is Ali Abdelaziz going to fumble for his roster? And these are just the examples, right off the top of my head. But again, Beneil Dariush, Belal Muhammad, Justin Gaethje, craziness, absolute craziness. And we have another example of this. This one isn't as grotesque, but what about Magomed Ankalaev? Magomed Ankalaev fought in December 2022 so that he could fight for the title. It ended in a draw. He still hasn't had a title shot since. I know he fought in October, ended up being a no contest, rematch in January, ended up getting the win via KO there. We'll see if he finally gets his title shot. But the fact that you're fighting for a vacant belt, you fight to a draw in a fight that most people thought you won, and now under no way, shape, or form are you able to get him a title shot in a calendar year? Over a year at this point? It's been a year and a half now. And I understand you had returning Yuri Prohaska, you had returning Jamal Hill. But at some point, every single one of these cases, these particular instances, it's not just, bad luck for Ali Abdelaziz and his clients. No, this is a historic precedent. We're looking back at the past to predict the future. And I understand he's done great things for some of his clients, but it's because he's trading stuff behind the scenes to stay on the UFC's good side, because the UFC wants Ali Abdelaziz in power because they have a good relationship with him, and Ali convinces his fighters to do with whatever the UFC wants them to do. That's what's going on here. He's mismanaging Belal. He's mismanaging Magomed Ankalaev. He's mismanaging Gaethje. He's mismanaging Islam. And I really think what he did to Gaethje and what he did to Islam is crazy. What he's doing to Belal is damn near criminal. I don't know how he's not fighting with every bit. In a way, Dominance MMA has its own little union in a way. Because Ali could use the power of his stable of fighters to actually do good for the fighters. But instead, he's just at the beck and call of the UFC. And again, I've listed example after example after example, and I think it's disturbing. Now, the other thing that he does, and this isn't as bad, but this is definitely a conflict of interest, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, he double dips with his fighters. And I know sometimes it's unavoidable, but it just seems like at the low level end, it's happening more times than not. Like right now, just recent examples, Jessica Andrade versus Marina Rodriguez, both under the Dominance MMA banner. Also, Brendan Allen versus Marvin Vettori. I understand some of these are unavoidable, but it happens more times than not. And it's because Ali's looking to double dip on fight purses. He gets a percentage of their fight purse. So I believe some of these fights he's intentionally trying to make. This isn't the worst thing in the world, but it's a massive conflict of interest. And then on top of everything that I've just spoken about, the career mismanagement, the shady things that he's doing behind the scenes with the UFC, his relationship with MMA media is one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video, because a lot of people in MMA media are scared of Ali Abdelaziz. They don't want to confront Ali Abdelaziz. They don't want to say a bad word about Ali Abdelaziz because they know the influence and the power he has over the UFC's decision making to a certain extent, but they also are scared of backlash because of the fighter stable that he has. So he quote unquote owns some of the MMA media, but some of the things that he does that we've heard in the past, him and some of the guys that work with him go out of their way in an attempt to bully MMA media at live events out of asking certain questions or asking questions at all, because they've run their stable of fighters like a dictatorship. They don't want any media asking any questions that they do not like, which is just crazy to me. And they go out of their way to attempt to bully and harass people. And it's crazy that they get away with it. I would love to get UFC media credentials one day. And I would love for Ali Abdelaziz try to bully me in some back room. I would absolutely love that. I pray to the MMA gods that happens one day. Please give me UFC credentials. Let me go to an event. Let me enjoy myself and let Ali Abdelaziz or one of his minions from Dominance MMA try to bully me in a back room. Would absolutely love it. Wish it happens one day. So then we can address it. I look forward to that hopefully happening one day, even though it may not. But on top of bullying media members, he quote unquote owns certain media members. And those media members, if you read the writing on the wall, I see it all the time, where it's only good press about Dominance MMA fighters. You'll see certain media members always breaking Dominance MMA fight news, always getting Dominance MMA interviews. Those are the media outlets, and I'm going to name a couple for you. I'm going to name two of them for you, that are owned by Ali Abdelaziz, but even admits to it in an audio recording we're going to take a look at in a second. But let's talk about one massive name in MMA media that is basically owned by Ali Abdelaziz, and that's John Morgan. John Morgan will never say anything critical about a Dominance MMA fighter. You know why? Because guess who is the head of their PR department? That is John Morgan's wife. How crazy is that? How crazy is that John Morgan's wife works for Dominance MMA? You think John Morgan's going to say anything negative about Dominance MMA in his reporting? You think that John Morgan's going to ask any hard questions for Dominance MMA fighters? No, absolutely not. You think he's going to ask any questions of Ali Abdelaziz that he doesn't want to answer? Absolutely not. They're going to kowtow and toe the line for Ali Abdelaziz because they don't want any backlash. And Ali Abdelaziz is one of the most sensitive managers in all of MMA. And he gets away with being a little crybaby because he can't handle some questions. He's scared of being asked certain questions. He's scared of his fighters being asked questions that he doesn't like. And most of the time, these questions aren't even that bad. They're just being overly sensitive. Now, on top of that, you also have a known UFC shill and a known Ali Abdelaziz shill and Dominance MMA shill in Brett Okamoto. I know Brett Okamoto works for ESPN MMA, so he naturally has to be a UFC shill. But when he's recording those interviews in 480p on his webcam that he paid $20 for, you notice a lot of those interviews are with Dominance MMA fighters. Those media members are ones that are, and don't get me wrong, I know I'm singling out some people here. MMA media as a whole is absolute shit. It's absolute shit. Everyone's scared of the UFC. Everyone's scared of fighter backlash. Everyone's scared of not fans. Everyone's scared of being, removed from the UFC press events. And I think that's in a way why MMA YouTube in a way has become more popular, because a lot of fans, they don't really enjoy these generic, basic, mundane, milquetoast analysis because of media being scared of pissing off a fighter by saying, oh, so-and-so striking is better than so-and-so. Just generic stuff that they can't say because they're scared. But Brett Okamoto is one of those guys who basically toes the line and they're glorified publicists for Dominance MMA. They're glorified publicists for Dominance MMA. And what's also crazy to me, and we're going to look at the audio clip here in a second, Ali Abdelaziz also has a history of poaching clients from other managements. And what he'll do is he'll essentially approach clients of other MMA managers, promise them a UFC contract because some of these fighters may not be in the UFC. That fighter desperately wants to be in the UFC, so then they kind of screw over their current management, go with Ali Abdelaziz, and then he harasses or bullies the other management and not into not doing anything, even though they have a signed contract. And that's kind of where we get into this audio here, because I'll link the article. You can go read the entire story. Ali Abdelaziz poached a fighter from Fernand Lopez, Slim Trabelski, I believe it is. You have that fighter, Slim, who was then poached by Ali Abdelaziz with the promise of a UFC contract. He then ghosts Fernand Lopez, goes with Ali. Ali introduces him to the UFC because, again, the UFC and Ali work hand in hand. And then Fernand Lopez says, wait a second, what's going on here? I have a contract with him. Then Fernand Lopez sends his contract into the UFC and says, look, here's my contract with this fighter. Tell Ali to send you his contract with this fighter. Ali didn't have a contract with this fighter because Ali just expected Lopez to be like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. Ali's so powerful. Once Fernand Lopez doesn't back down, Ali apparently, I don't have all the recording here, starts harassing Fernand Lopez. Okay, and I'm giving you all this backstory because historically, I think this goes down in the back alleys. You don't really hear about this. This is one of the rare times you actually see what happens, because a lot of times you have these managers who maybe don't have as much influence or power. They're just like, oh, well, I have to basically take the loss here and let my fighter go with Ali, because now I look at like I'm in a shitty situation because they're not going to sign with the UFC with me because Ali is basically put in a position of power by the UFC. So that's kind of how the power structure works. The UFC signs Ali's fighters. This also happens with, I can't remember the name of the management group, but I think it's Jason House. There's a whole video on it. I'll link it down in the description. The UFC likes to put certain managers in power by essentially signing all their regional fighters because they like working with these managers. So it's a very bizarre situation, but it's all because the UFC and Dana White wants to run the organization like a dictatorship. Well, anyway, once Fernand Lopez did not back down from Ali Abdelaziz started harassing Fernand Lopez on the phone. And that's where this audio comes in, where Fernand Lopez recorded the audio of what Ali Abdelaziz had to say on the phone. And he singles out a media member by name. And he talks about how he owns the MMA media, which I've gone through. John Morgan, well-known in MMA media. Brett Okamoto, well-known in MMA media. This last guy, not as well-known, but works for a major organization. And you're going to hear his name in a second because you're going to hear it directly from Ali Abdelaziz. Listen to this.
I've been blocking medias, tons of medias.
Brother, you don't, brother, friends don't have shit, brother. I fucking own the media.
So
you heard Fernand Lopez in the beginning talking about MMA media, and then you hear Ali jump in. I'm going to rewind it a little bit and say, I own the MMA media. And then he's going to even single out a name.
Brother, friends don't have shit, brother. I fucking own the media.
So
okay, let's be real. But I do. But why do we need? This is like fucking.
You don't understand. You don't understand me. I do not have any media. I do not have. It's the media that you put on my tag that calling me. They are the one calling me.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why you think Damon Martin don't put story out?
Why do you think Damon Martin didn't put story out? Damon Martin is a reporter for MMA Fighting, who is owned by Ali Abdelaziz. He singles out the name. Ali Abdelaziz has so much power in the MMA community that a lot of these reporters won't report on certain things. They won't report on any bad news. The fact that Ali Abdelaziz is essentially stealing a fighter who's under contract with another management team and trying to steal them and usher them into the UFC. And the fact that this is a bad look on the fighter, this is a bad look on the UFC, this is a bad look on Ali Abdelaziz. Why do you think probably the first time you're hearing about this is through me? Because it's buried. I wonder how many more of these countless stories are buried because, oh, he owns the media and the right names don't get a hold of it. Again, I'll link this entire article down in the description if you want to go check it out. But I'm going to rewind it a little bit more and listen to it a little bit more from what we already heard. Listen to this.
Calling me. They are the one calling me.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why you think Damon Martin don't put story out? He have story. I say, hey, please don't put. I don't want this shit. Why do you think
because Ali Abdelaziz owns him. He told him what to write and what not. Imagine if Ali Abdelaziz was able to call me up. Not that I'm some massive entity. I'm a small channel here. By the way, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. We won't be bullied. We won't back down. I'm not scared of a single soul in the world, let alone Ali Abdelaziz. Why do you think you don't see some of these stories? Because they're scared of Ali Abdelaziz. They're scared of the UFC. They're scared of fighter backlash. The fact that you're trying to poach someone's client should have been massive news. And MMA Fighting doesn't write about it because Ali called him up and said, hey, don't write that. And now Bloody Elbow's gone. I have my suspicions. I know it's a pure conspiracy theory. I don't have any evidence to back it up. I think someone attached to the UFC or Dana White or even maybe Dominance MMA, I think they bought out Bloody Elbow just to kind of zombify it, for lack of a better word, because they were the only people doing any critical reporting of the UFC. So they said, you know what? Why not buy it? You know, it's $20 and a bag of peanuts. Let's buy Bloody Elbow and shut them down so we don't have any critical reporting. But he told Damon Martin specifically, listen to this one last time, and we'll listen to a little bit more. He told him not to put out the story.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why you think Damon Martin don't put story out? He have story. I say, hey, please, don't put. I don't want this shit. Why you think he don't put? Because I don't want to put.
You know why? You know why? You know why?
That's basically the gist of it. Fernand Lopez goes on to talk a little bit more. The link and the entire audio will be down in the description. But also, apparently he was threatening him as well. He was threatening Fernand Lopez with physical violence because of the fact Lopez was unable to tell, was unwilling to release his fighter because of the dirty, shady tactics that Ali Abdelaziz, Slim, and the UFC tried to pull over on him. He stood his ground, and guess what? This story was posted in 2022. That guy still isn't in the UFC, so I feel bad for that guy, but he should have tried to work it out with his manager before he allowed Ali to just poach him and then spring that news on the guy he actually had a contract with, which was Fernand Lopez. But again, this is the type of shady stuff that Ali Abdelaziz and Dominance MMA does, and they have a history of mismanaging their fighters, not getting their fighters title shots when they deserve title shots, ending up with fighters in really bad situations like Justin Gaethje, end up with fighters like Islam Makhachev fighting undeserving contenders after sitting out for longer than they wanted to because Ali's too busy doing other favors for the UFC, which one of them involves a contender that actually deserves the title shot. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. There's probably countless examples that I'm missing. And again, I've gone through all these examples. In some cases, you probably could have more information and they might say, oh, well, it really wasn't his fault. But at the end of the day, the buck stops with the management team. And I think it's despicable. They're screwing some of these guys out of what they've earned in their careers because they want to do favors for the UFC. I think it's disgusting. You have MMA media bowing down to Dominance MMA. And that's why you see only Dominance MMA fighters interviewing with certain outlets and certain media members because Ali already owns them and Ali gets to dictate essentially whether or not they ask certain questions or, you know, basically if you report one bad story, you're disowned by Dominance MMA. That's essentially what goes on. I wanted to make this video because I don't feel like a lot of people know about it because no one will talk about it because people are scared of it. And this video isn't like the most salacious video that you can do, but I think it's worthy of being put out there. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.